the drylands that are adjacent to this floodplains. So we have different ecosystems that plants and animals that want or that prefer to live in wetlands, and there are those that actually prefer to live in drylands. And then there are some that want to use both ecosystems within a larger landscape. This is what we are interested in, and we should understand their importance. So you look at biodiversity. Why is it important? Why is it important to a human being? A definition from Salman and Beatles, they said, it is important as an end in itself. That means as a species or a biological diversity, you have an intrinsic value. You are valued for being what you are. So I'm here, I'm valued for being what I am. We learned about otters and the known as otters this morning. They are valued for their ecosystem, the ecosystem influence they have within the ecosystem. They are influential as so in terms of, it can be in terms of historical information they have and the resilience they have to now that we are moving towards climate that is so adverse, climate that is so harsh because of climate change. There will be some species that have that intrinsic value in them, that have genetic makeup that make them to be resilient or tolerant to the changing climate. So it's an end in itself, value for what it is. And it can be also as a means to an end. You are valued for your contribution to the human being livelihood. It's valued for its contribution to the sustainable production in the form of services that it provides. Wildlife provides different ecosystem processes, different ecosystem services, and we value it because it provides us with food. Then that it also provides us with feed. And this one is somebody said, insects also are wildlife species that provide us with food. Some of us we eat insects. So it's a means to getting what we need. It's a means to getting economy that we need. Revenue that we need. That's why I asked about why are we going to Libya? We go to Libya to promote tourism. To go there and see the landscape. To know that landscape, the Namibians get value from it. So it's a means to an end. So it can also be used, it can also be used as a measure of quality of environmental quality. The species that is still there. Yesterday we were talking about beetles, and somebody said we should also look at whether the beetles that are coming into that system are they resilient? That they show, are they showing a change in the habitat quality? So when you look at the species, different species, also look at what information they can provide all the different
Hello, host. We can't hear anything. Kindly advise us on what to do.
They look at variation in soil types and habitats and how they affect the abundance and the number of plant species. You see here that heterogeneity, different places increases. We continue to have different number of species also increases. So this is important for landscape management. Soil drainage, different drainage capacities of different plants. The diversity that we use. You don't have to limit yourself to a small patch, but by that you are excluding other diversities that would be important to you to reach or to achieve a means to an end. In botanics, I can give an example. This is the situation as it is in terms of rainfall distribution. We have lesser rainfall in the Kalahari towards Nosop, that area.
We were trying to connect you with the plenary session, but we set up this online platform specifically for you to present immediately after the plenary presenter. So when you are presenting, the entire room will be able to hear to engage with you directly. So I think just hold on. As soon as the current presenter is done, we will be able to have you with us.
Okay.
Hello?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got the information.
I hope you can hear me, colleagues.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Is higher, we start having more diversity in terms of animal, mammals, fish, birds, amphibians, and reptiles, and plants as well. Even though here I couldn't find the number of species diversity in Kalahari. So heterogeneous landscapes, like I said, they provide a better chance of having different types of resources. Some of them, they are important as they are, and some of them you can replace and have a replacement of them. So there are non-substitutable and substitutable resources. Yes, but we do have constraints when it comes to managing biodiversity. Those constraints, they come mostly, they're influenced by men. Man is a key driver, is a primary driver of changes that we see in the landscape. Is the main driver of ecosystem changes that we see. So fragmentation is mostly caused by a number of things. One of the major things that we have studied is the erection of cordon fences. I'm lucky to have somebody who actually also wrote about that extensively, Professor Maiwa. These cordon fences were meant to protect livestock from disease from wild animals. Like huge amount of disease. Buffaloes, there are carriers of FMD. So a lot of fences were put up so that the cluster that we have is not infected with the disease. So that's how you have different, you have row fences cutting across up and down within a country, because by then there was more value coming from livestock. So they wanted to protect the resource that they have, which is livestock. So we have crisscross across the country fences, the red colors there, they show the fences that we have. And yeah, for different diseases like lung disease or FMD. And as you know, these fences are not permeable. Animals are not able, but then animals, they were constructed in a way that they will stop totally the movement of wildlife into livestock areas. So, like I said, once you have those places, then you are separating these resources from animals that need them. Okay, your attention is on the livestock. But what about the wildlife? That now you have left it in a small part, and you don't know that they also need the other part to sustain themselves. And they need those different parts for different reasons. For breathing, for water, when it's dry, for salt, some they can travel long distance to get aquatic things. So if you look at it, I'm giving an example here of the Kalahari from the Gaza FCA. This is a map that you are familiar with. It's not so clear, but it shows movements of wildlife within this larger ecosystem or larger landscape. We have animals moving between Namibia and Angola, Namibia and Botswana. We have past the other side, we have other areas, so animals move between the Congo area, the side of Botswana, the Congo area. We see animals crossing this boundary. Some of these boundaries are thin, so they sort of impose an obstruction to wildlife. So, but as we continue to get more information about wildlife in this state, the preservation side, and so so connectivity is very important. And today I'm talking about the benefits that we get as human beings. When we benefit anything from this wildlife, as it moves from protected areas to other areas, we want to keep them isolated in one place. But if we protect, then the communities that live within those areas or between corridors can benefit through different programs, and the benefits they can hunt, benefit from through CDNR projects, and they can improve their life eventually. So when we design, when we come up with wildlife conservation and management strategy, make sure that the communities are involved. So the community, people expect them, and then they inhabit the area around this number, means then your own hand will be enclosed in a country. What about if the climate change? What about water in those small places that are isolated and now comes by that animals are forced to do that? Because we have not consulted the community, that wildlife, even though you have created a much area for them, those wildlife will try to move out, then come when the conflict arises. So I talked about disturbance. There's a theory that for you to increase, for you to survive, there should be some disturbance. everybody takes something that's taken. And once you are taking that way from and then say, okay, continue with the presentation, you'll be more a little bit excited, you'll not be finished it. But if I let you like you are for a very long time, you'll feel sleepy. So you need a small disturbance. And that disturbance should not be so high. So there's a theory that a moderate disturbance is good for diversity, for biodiversity. Yes, we have different types of disturbances, ecological disturbances, in the form of being caused by animals, anthropogenic, nature to environment, and climate. So those are disturbances that we need. And here I'm showing a graph developed by someone who came up with a hypothesis about disturbance. That, as we increase this disturbance, it start having more diversity. So in Botswana, we have a large country, and the decreasing at the growth rate of 5%. Now, over 126,000, 130,000 plus the survey that other. So this animals have been increasing and increasing. So they are causing some disturbance. But this disturbance now is active. That's why I'm asking the question that is Botswana's elephants beyond or below intermediate disturbance? Are we just sitting there to increase beyond the level that we say no, this disturbance is only? So we have these elephants that are have in small areas, mostly in the north, very few in the eastern parts, and the population is increasing. And in 1990, there was a sort of a review that was done by Pilot, and he said, Botswana are proposing that the carrying capacity should not exceed 60,000. So are we not beyond that? As the system accommodated more than that. So these are the things that we are thinking. I know that there are issues about carrying capacity for a certain figure changes position, but the number of things that now are included on those issues like we had very social considerations that we have to make. So in Botswana element on city, there was a study that was done, and I was part of that big study of China here. And in that study, it was observed that there's a gradual retreat of food and but in that project, we also observed that there are no ecological reasons to use the elephant. But for social economic reasons, they make a need because these animals are going to go When
I just have one question in line with the paper that I have read. In the last paper, left me somewhat confused. So this paper was debating the role of intrinsic value and instrumental value with driving conservation interests. And this paper argues that in the actual fact, intrinsic value cannot be used as a basis for conservation, but the other instrumental value should, because instrumental value will define the benefit to the people, and the people will conserve more what benefits them, as opposed to intrinsic value, which is just a value in so I just want to hear what your comment is. Maybe that can improve what I'm doing in terms of this debate.
Thank you so much. In terms of, I don't know, the thing is, Mokwana and India's in terms of the studies principle, they are in the hotspots. In the hotspot, I mean, the population of elephants is so high, and we are seeing degradation of the environment, of the ecosystems in the field. And in Kenya, they're experiencing low numbers. So they are not actually at the extreme, but they are at the other low rate of the. So I can say that if it was possible, no longer possible, because of the independence of the countries. But now I think we are moving into a situation whereby people everywhere that are considering having this transparent conservation areas. So if but we should address the problem as it is now. And elephants will not be able to move from something that makes them to be kept in our region. So I will force them to go there so that you actually reduce pressure. That is the side. So I think within a region we can decide on our own that this is a disturbance at its extreme end. Let's try to reduce this cut. In terms of biodiversity principle, in terms of the value that we get, we should try to maximize the value, but at the same time, understanding that if we let the dominance of what somebody was talking about the dominance, then it can affect the dominance of other species. So we should try to actually, because we are already, somebody was saying we are no longer living in natural space. We are living in a world whereby men the natural process, the process that we consider natural environment. So let's try to manage, because the principles of wildlife management is that you increase the of life and make sure that the population does not know that we want the chemical capacity of the land. You know that the chemical capacity fluctuates, so we can determine when to increase, because if these animals move into one physical area, then it means then in the following year they may not be able to make that. That area will not be available to them. Yes, people talk about functional and the functional values, functional skills, functional health, functional growth. That many people that bother about is this and for me, I say everything was created for a purpose. And I want to invoke anything from the Bible, but I know that everything was created for a purpose. Each species has a purpose, and we shouldn't just want to say that what to say. Because this species, people already done by other species, we should not think more about that species. That's my understanding.
Thank you for the presentation. Regarding the capacity for 50,000. And also, the dedicated capacity is not fully operated species and also, if this is then incorporated, like the pattern, what is it that was trying to doing that is then allowed application size to all the
Yes, when we talk about capacity, it looks like different things. There's an economic part that is also considered, and the second part that also look at that. An effect when it's all as a problem, it wasn't really maybe even okay, so consider the food requirements of the animals, the water, and all that, but it also looks into the aspect, the issue of the problem. This animal moving out, then if they move out, then it will be a problem. So the carrying capacity that they define, not only look at the ecological requirements of this animal, but you also looked at how people around this area, the elephant range, will respond to the animals actually move into their areas. So the calculations were there, they tried to calculate, but then they ultimately decided to stay with 60,000. They may not have considered, I think they have considered movement, that's the movement, but the issue there was conflict, was mainly the issue of conflict that made them to arrive at this number. As we know, if such a large number, like 60,000, and trouble at the moment was 80,000, but if you allow that 50,000 to concentrate within a large area, then they will cause more damage. But in the wet season, you know that it's spread. When they spread, the density becomes less than one. I think they concentrate within the benefits for life that they cause them. So most of the people what they use the carrying capacity of the range. But that's where the concern is that if it's damaged, then you know the damage may not be better. So they don't care much about the other area that about the area where the animals concentrate. What was the other one? Yes, what is Botswana doing? Yes, I don't know. I don't know what Botswana is doing, but what I know is that Botswana is very distant population is double. And Botswana has reserved about more than 40% of this land area for wildlife. And most of this wildlife is this side, those are India. So we have this larger area.
Will you manage for now? Will you manage for now? I want to go out quickly.
Because there isn't much interaction with people down south. I want to talk about coaching,
And colleagues, I think it is good. I don't think we had the discussion short. We have colleagues that are connected from Vidu and the others from across. We have given the time. So I know we have Dr. Masunga with us. We always we chat with him on the side. In the interest of our time, allow me to request that we bring our colleagues who are online so that they can also present. I think we have about six presenters who are online. Colleagues online, please confirm.
Line colleagues, please confirm.
Yes, at Hove, yeah. Yes, we can hear you, but I should admit that the sound was a bit poor. I mean, the audio is breaking up and we did not have any visuals in the last, I think, 5 minutes.
Colleagues, confirm now if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh. Sorry. Please confirm.
Yeah, you're audible.
Thank you so much. Our next presenter online we would really appreciate if the online presenter can share the screen so that we get started now. But also note that the presentation is live on social platform. Our next presenter is Emmanuel Aushona on the impact of bush thinning on the vegetation structure and soil properties of Ochiwa Game Farm, Otos in Yupa region, Namibia. Go ahead, Aushona, please. Like I indicated that the online presenters, please be ready, make sure your presentation is open. We have a very tight schedule.
Just a moment. It's I'm sharing. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Let me stop sharing and share again.
If you can confirm your presentation number, we can try to share it from here.
Submission 4.
Submission number 4.
Yes.
Maybe in the interest of time, while you are getting ready, I'm sure if your combo is ready.
Okay, Amaran, let me
Moses
see if I can
Okumbo.
share. Let me try sharing.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Moses, you can go ahead. My computer just froze.
Can someone confirm that my screen is now audible? My screen is visible and I'm audible?
We can hear you very well. Your screen is clear. Say.
Okay.
Just put in presentation mode, sir.
Are we there?
Just put in presentation mode.
I've
Yes, we are here.
Can you see the screen now?
Okay. Yes, we can see very well.
In presentation mode? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon, everyone. So let's answer the question, does debushing restore the abundance and diversity of small mammals in bush and crouch rangelands? This work is a brainchild of Professor John Mfune from the University of Namibia, Karen Codling from Africa Foundation Okonjima Nature Reserve, and I, Moses. So in the outline of my presentation, I'll give a brief introduction about bush encroachment and debushing, the problem associated with it, our goals, our study area, methods, findings, and the take-home message. And before we can delve into it, I'll invite your attention to the image that appears right in front of you. If you have a keen look at the image, you realize that in the background, we have an area that is dominated by woody cover. And whenever I'll be speaking about bush encroachment, I'll want you to think about the background. And if you have a closer look at the area in the foreground, you'll see an area that is dominated by grass cover with little hoods. So whenever I'll be talking about debushing, I want you to think about the foreground. So African rangelands have been defined as having a dynamic coexistence of trees and grasses, whereby grasses have continuous cover and trees have discontinuous cover. However, decades of disturbance occasioned by exclusion and extirpation of mega herbivores, exclusion of fire, overstocking and overgrazing, as well as climate change that promote the growth of C3 woody plants over C4 grasses have exposed these rangelands into bush encroachment. Bush encroachment is primarily defined as proliferation of woody species in areas that have been previously regarded as grasslands. And you'll recall that these rangelands have been set aside for livestock production, game farming, as well as ecotourism. And therefore, bush encroachment lowers their productivity as well as homogenizing biodiversity. So due to the economic importance attached to these rangelands, there's always a need to restore their biodiversity as well as productivity. Therefore, debushing has widely been applied as a viable option to restore their productivity as well as their biodiversity. And in some aspect, it has been quite successful. So whereas debushing has been done in most of the African rangelands, studies have always been constantly related to charismatic fauna, with little attention given to less charismatic but ecologically important organisms such as small mammals. The question one will ask is, why should we care about these small mammals? You'd remember that small mammals perform diverse ecological roles, and therefore it is important to understand their response to debushing in order to manage and conserve not only their population, but also their ecosystem effectively. And then understanding their response to debushing is also effective in predicting the ecosystem service that these organisms provide. So our goal was to document the effect of habitat type, in this case, either bush encroached or debushed, and season, either dry or wet, on the abundance and diversity of small mammals. And we predicted that the abundance and diversity of small mammals would be higher in the debushed habitat, because debushing is associated with increased grass cover, as I have shown you in the first image. And we also predicted that abundance and diversity would be higher in the wet season than the dry season, because in the dry season you have increased rate of net primary productivity. And whenever the primary productivity is higher, then you expect more individuals of diverse species. So our study area was Okonjima Nature Reserve in Ochezonjupa region, central Namibia. You can have a look at the map. And this farm has had a long history of bush encroachment, as well as other part of the Ochezonjupa region. And in 2022, a section of this farm was debushed in order to understand the response of biodiversity to debushing. So when we got to Okonjima, we selected 2 distinct habitats as either bush encroached or debushed, and then randomly demarcated 400 square meter plots and conducted baseline vegetation survey to determine that this habitat differed physiognomically. Primarily, we were interested in wood density, height, cover, grass cover, and grass height. Similarly, there's always been an intricate relationship between small mammals and ungulates, in that their abundance are negatively correlated. So we use dung survey as a proxy of habitat use and herbivory by ungulates. Then when that was done, we demarcated a 50 by 50 subplot in each of the 100 square meter plot and laid 25 shaman traps in a 5 by 5 grid and trapped small mammals for 4 consecutive nights in both the seasons. So after 800 trap nights, we were fortunate to have 130 captures of 1 or 4 unique individuals that were widely distributed among 7 species, which include Aethiomis chrysophilus, Elephantulus itumfi, Mus indutus in the bush encroach habitat, Gabiliscus leucogaster, Gabiliscus paeba, Mastomis natalensis in both bush encroach and debushed habitat, and Micalemis namaquensis in the debushed habitat. So the images in front of you is just the 3 most common species that we trapped. On top left, we have Elephantulus itumfi. Top right, we have Gabiliscus leucogaster. And bottom, we have Micalemis namaquensis. So to understand the response of abundance to habitat type and season, we modeled this response using mixed model, and we used habitat and season as fixed factors and species, because we had 7 species, as random variable. And to understand the response of diversity, we modeled it using a GLM, and we use habitat type and season as fixed factors. Model assumptions were visualized by plotting the normal QQ and the residual versus fitted plots, and the assumptions were met. So whenever there was a significant effect of a given factor, we did a pairwise comparison using the e-means package. So our results showed that these 2 habitats differed significantly in the abundance of small mammals in both dry and wet season, with the debushed habitat having significantly higher abundance. So higher abundance in the debushed habitat is a function of increased grass cover. So you'd recall that debushing is associated with increasing grass cover. And when you increase the grass cover, you are increasing food in form of grasses and grass seed for herbivorous small mammals. So whenever you increase food, you expect to have a higher number of individuals in that particular habitat. You'd also remember the intricate relationship between ungulates and small mammals. But from our dung survey result, there was no there was no pattern in the preference of ungulates for a given habitat, in that their distribution was random. So whenever you have a random distribution of ungulates, then you expect that the net benefit caused by the increased grass cover will not be counteracted by increased herbivory. So in that case, you don't expect a disproportionate effect of ungulates on small mammals. That's why you'll have a higher abundance on the debushed habitat than the bush encroached habitat. But diversity behaved opposite to abundance, in that these two habitats had similar diversity, but there was a significant seasonal shift in the diversity of small mammals, with the wet season being significantly higher than the dry season. So the equal diversity is a function of the vegetation diversity. You'll recall that debushing lowers the wood density and increases the grass cover. So you are moving from one homogeneous state to another homogeneous state without totally affecting the diversity of vegetation. You'll recall from heterogeneous hypothesis that we posit that heterogeneous landscapes will host a diverse assembly of organisms. But in this case, there's no significant difference in the vegetation diversity. So therefore, we also have similar diversity of small mammals. But the significant seasonal shift in the diversity is a function of net primary productivity. You'll recall that in the savannas, we have two distinct seasons, and in the wet season, the rate of net primary productivity is higher as opposed to the dry season, when most of the savanna plants are water limited. So what is our take-home message? We realized that these two habitats differed significantly in the abundance of small mammals, but not diversity. So this shows that debushing can favor the abundance of some species of small mammals, but is ineffective in restoring the diversity of small mammals. So if the bush encroach lands are to be debushed, then we expect an increased abundance of small mammals, which will increase the efficiency of the ecosystem services that these small mammals provide. Finally, we also recall that with the climate change prediction, Namibia is expected to be more dry. And if you're having increased drought periods, coupled with bush encroachment, then in the future we might be having reduced diversity and abundance of small mammals, which will lower the effectiveness and the efficiency of the ecosystem services that the small mammals provide. And in acknowledgement, I'd like to thank DAD in region, in country for sponsoring my education at UNAM, and the Okonjima Nature Reserve for allowing me to do my research in their farm. These are some of the references that I used. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That was my time. I'll be glad to welcome any question. Was I audible?
Online colleagues.
I'll be glad to receive any questions. That's network. I didn't hear that, sir. Kindly.
Colleagues, allow us the hosting computer to switch to allow us to switch the hosting computer to a new network, which we suppose maybe can be a bit stable.
Are you presuming that I was not audible?
Yes, Moses, please conclude.
Pardon?
Yeah, you can go ahead and conclude. Sorry, we had lost you here.
From what point?
I think you were almost concluding. We were together the concluding point.
Okay.
When you said message.
Pardon? When I said?
The take-home message. We were actually eagerly waiting for the take-home message.
Okay. Then let me share my screen again.
Oh, it's visible though.
It's visible.
On presentation mode. Yes, we can see your screen now.
Okay, just a minute. It's like I'm having two screens.
Just stop sharing, or maybe I should stop you.
Pardon?
Then you reshare. Just stop sharing and reshare again.
Okay.
Whilst Moses is coming back, just to confirm, Shona, if you are ready now.
Moses will put up my presentation because my
Just a
computer
minute.
is
Thank you so much.
I'm experiencing the same problem you had. My computer is frozen on the screen.
Oh, it's no problem. But I think we had almost gotten everything. And I want to believe the house is ready now to pose some few questions.
Maybe.
And
Maybe I can leave and come back very quickly in less than a minute.
No problem. Colleagues in the house, if there are any questions for Moses, please, this is the time to pose the questions. I think he will be able to respond. We can even pose the questions when he joins, he will meet the questions. Otherwise, yeah, there are questions here from Dr. Jesiah.
Okay. So let me give the take-home message, then I'll take their questions.
Yeah, just 30 seconds.
So in the take-home message, we found that these two habitats differed significantly in their abundance, but not diversity. So this shows that debushing can favor the abundance of some species of small mammals, but is ineffective in restoring the diversity of small mammals. So if in future we continue to debush the bush and crotch rangelands, then you're likely to increase the efficiency of ecosystem services that these small mammals provide. But if you can recall about the climate change prediction, Namibia is expected to be drier in the future. So if we have such a situation whereby we're having prolonged period of droughts and bush encroachment, then we are likely to experience reduced abundance and reduced diversity of small mammals, which translate to reduced efficiency and effectiveness of ecosystem services that these creatures provide. And then just the acknowledgement to DAD, UNAM, and Okonjima Nature Reserve for allowing me to do my research in their farm, the references that I consulted, and good, I'll take the questions.
Thank you very much. A quick one. I'm more interested in the environmental variable or ecological variables that distinguishes the encroached sites and the encroached site, which you have used to explain the variation in the abundance of small mammals between the two habitats. If you could just shed some light on that, and then possibly what you define in your study as a small mammal, just to shed some light on this so that you understand.
Okay, so we have difference in terms of wood density, wood height, wood cover, grass height, grass cover, and level of herbivory. So if you're increasing grass cover, then grass cover attracts some herbivorous small mammals and in large numbers. But if you increase the wood density and wood cover, pardon?
Just to clarify my question, how were those variables in the analysis to explain the variation between the two habitats?
Pardon?
How were those variables incorporated in the analysis to explain the variation in abundance between the two habitats?
So you'll remember that habitat is a function of wood cover, wood density, grass cover, and grass height. So that's how we included them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Colleagues, any other questions? Thank you so much. I think we want to thank Mr. Moses for a wonderful presentation. As we invite the next presenter, I'm not sure if Mr. Moses will be able to assist us to get Ushona online.
Let someone go next, then I'll take Ushona after the next person.
Ms. Martha Utuna Nashini, Vegetation and Reproductive Farmers, Location Responses of herbaceous species to drought in a semi-arid highland savanna.
Yes, can you see my screen?
Yeah, the screen is coming. I think it's on its way here.
Okay.
Yes, the screen, we can see the screen very well.
Okay, let me just put it on slideshow.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen and am I audible?
Yeah, I'll confirm on behalf of everyone.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. I will shed some light on how herbaceous plant species respond to drought in terms of their biomass allocation. I'm being supervised by Prof. Ezekiel Kwembeya and co-supervised by Dr. Francisca Kangombe. This is the outline of my presentation. With climate change predicted to escalate the severity as well as the frequency of droughts, it is projected that these impacts might be more intense in arid regions of which Namibia is part of. Namibia's already arid conditions make its vegetation vulnerable to changes due to precipitation, not only affecting their plant growth, but also their biomass allocation. By biomass allocation, we are referring to how a plant partitions its resources across various organs. So why should we be concerned with the biomass allocation? Simply because biomass allocation patterns are essential, especially when it comes to assessing ecosystem status as well. And they also shed some light on the survival tactics of herbaceous species across various environmental conditions. In order to understand these plant and climate interactions, scientists have come up with a more suitable way, an easier way on how to do such analysis in the field by simply using rainout shelters. So rainout shelters are experimental tools that erect over an intact vegetation and have the ability to exclude natural precipitation. In terms of allocation patterns, existing studies have shown that under severe drought stress, plains reduce investment in reproductive structures as a result of the decline in their photosynthetic capacity. However, most of these studies have only considered the above ground component, leaving out the below ground component because arguing that it is difficult to be assessed, especially in the field. But my study has used or has looked at both above ground as well as below ground components. So for the purpose of this presentation, I'll only be presenting on our first three objectives, which were to compare vegetative and reproductive biomass across the drought treatments, as well as to assess how some environmental factors such as soil moisture and temperature might have an impact on these allocation patterns. And lastly, to evaluate whether the shading will have an impact on the photosynthetic capacity of these herbaceous plants under the drought conditions. Moving on to the methodology. This study was conducted on one of the experimental farms at New Dam Agricultural Campus here in Windhoek, and it utilized 20 fixed rain-out shelters, of which 4 treatments were assigned, meaning that each treatment had 5 replicates. So this study comprised of both a field-based approach as well as a laboratory-based approach method. So in the field, a 0.5 by 0.5 quadrat was randomly thrown under the shelters, and all the vegetation that was found within the quadrant was clipped at ground level to yield the above ground material. And then the soil excavation method was utilized to obtain the below ground material, and which were manually sorted with the help of a sieve. In the lab, above ground was firstly oven dried for 19 hours at 50 degrees Celsius, and then sorted into reproductive and vegetative material. Below ground, biomass was first soaked for 2 hours to remove soil and debris, and then it was oven dried for 68 hours at 50 degrees Celsius, and then weighed as well. In terms of our environmental parameters, for the soil moisture content, the gravimetric methodology was utilized. A small hole, which was plus or minus 10 centimeters, was dug close to the area where the biomass was harvested, and then this soil was collected in Ziploc bags and transported to the laboratory. So in the lab, first of all, the soil was sieved to remove large rocks and other plant material that might have been in the soil, and then it was weighed to yield for the wet weigh, and then oven dried at 105 degrees Celsius for 16 hours, and then re-weighed again for the dry weight. Temperature was measured by using a mercury thermometer, while the chlorophyll content was measured by using a chlorophyll meter. So what did we find out? For objective A, which was to compare between vegetative and reproductive, the Kruskal-Wallis test indicated that there was no statistical significant difference, meaning that there was no clear trade-off in biomass allocation between the two variables. This could have been due to the fact that most of, or some of the species that were found under our rain-out shelters were known to be drought tolerant, such as Chloris rigata, Aristida congesta, as well as Pogonathria flecky. And studies have revealed that drought-tolerant plants under extreme drought conditions might not have a specific trade-off, and this is regarded as an adaptive mechanism. But then it could also have been due to the duration of the treatments. The treatments were only set up for a period of 1 month and 2 weeks. And studies have revealed that herbaceous plants may not respond strongly to short-term droughts. And this is because rapid changing in the biomass allocation could lead to suboptimal growth once the water is restored. In terms of our environmental variables, our generalized linear model for the vegetative allocation revealed that temperature was a significant predictor, while for reproductive allocation, it was a treatment. This is in line with the fact that rainout shelters are known to modify the microclimates, as they have the ability to increase temperatures by 1.2 to 1.8 degrees Celsius, as well as alter the solar radiation, which is an essential part when it comes to the reproductive allocation aspect. Moving on to objective C, chlorophyll content was found to significantly differ across the drought treatments, meaning that some species showed varied responses to different drought levels in terms of their chlorophyll contents. Species such as Aptosimum lineari, as well as Ocimum americanum, showed to have the highest and most variable chlorophyll levels, especially under the drought treatment 60. And this could be because they are known to be drought tolerant, and they are known to regulate their stomata to minimize water loss, as well as adjust their photosynthetic rates to optimize energy utilization. We had species such as Aristida congesta, as well as Eragrostis retiva, which showed to have the low chlorophyll levels, which clearly indicates that their photosynthetic capacity might have been greatly impacted by the shelters. And then we had species such as Melinus repens, which showed moderate chlorophyll levels. So the take-home message regarding objective C is it's a clear indication that indeed the rainout shelters do impact the chlorophyll content, which might affect the photosynthetic capacity of herbaceous plants under different drought treatments. So in conclusion, this study has shed some light on the fact that herbaceous plants can be resilient to short-term drought, and that indeed environmental factors such as temperature and drought itself can significantly influence the biomass allocation patterns of these herbaceous plants. Therefore, this study recommends the promotion as well as the conservation of drought-resilient species, as they have exhibited adaptive traits which help them survive in arid regions. And if proven non-invasive, these species can actually be utilized. They can actually be utilized in restoration projects. This study further recommends a more extensive study that will look at more environmental factors such as soil, nutrients, humidity, and topography, just to mention a few, as well as a long-term study that can try and compare these allocation patterns over different seasons and over a longer period of time, in order for us to actually understand how these herbaceous species might respond in terms of their biomass allocation under drought stress. Undertaking a study of this nature could have been impossible without the assistance of numerous people. So I would like to acknowledge my supervisors, Prof. Ezekiel Kwembeya and Dr. Francisca Kangombe, for their endless support, the University of Namibia for providing the funds for this study to be executed in the first place, Dr. Clara Mesongano and Prof. Kache for the construction of the rainout shelters, as Prof. John Mufune for being my mentor throughout my study, and of course my friends and family that have been the backbone throughout my research. These are some of my references. I thank you. And any questions?
Thank you so much, Ms. Martha. I think the floor is open to interact with you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions, colleagues? I think there is a question coming from
Martha. I just want to know how it was. Sorry, how did you include how do you account for tubers for that space for just tubers?
Can the question be repeated because I didn't hear it?
Okay, Martha, the question from Dr. Masunga is saying, how did you account for the chupa tubers, plant species that produces tubers. How deep did you dig?
Oh, we only dig until 10 centimeters. So all the tubers that, like for some species we found tubers, and then we categorize them or put them as our reproductive organs, part of our reproductive biomass allocation.
I was asking about the depth because much of the hibiscus plants, the depth is at, it increases up to 30 centimeters. Much of it is between 15 and 25. So I'm just wondering how deep you dig. That 10 centimeters to me looks very, it's a small depth.
Martha, do you want to respond? Do you want to respond? You dug 10 centimeters.
Yes,
but that 10 centimeters is quite a bit shallow. Would you want to respond to that?
Okay, the reason why we went for 10 centimeters was because the area where we were doing the biomass harvesting, it was very rocky. So at some points you might even struggle to dig to 10. So that's why we opted like to have 10 as our baseline, like just to dig at 10 centimeters because of the area of how, because due to the rockiness of the area in which we did that biomass harvesting.
Thank you so much. There is a second question from Dr. Eckhard Klinghofer.
Yeah, Martha, you mentioned two grass species, but the one plant genus you mentioned there was Aptosium. What type of plant is that?
Aptosimum.
Yes. Because you
Aptosimum
mentioned
is a perennial forb.
It's a forb. I'm not getting you. Because you mentioned two.
What type of plant is Aptosimum?
Yes, correct.
Okay, Aptosimum is a perennial forb species.
Okay, yeah, because I see below that you had two grass species. Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted clarity on that one. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Colleagues, any further questions? Thank you so much, Martha. And thanks the colleagues online really for being patient with us. I think we are ready to move to the next presenter. I'm not sure if Ushona is now ready, but if it's not ready, I think we should move the last, Mr. Sijawuli Sodube.
Oshana should be ready. I can share a screen.
Yes, Moses, you can share the screen.
While this Ushona is sharing, I think determinants of landscape and forest selectivity by cattle during wet season on a farm in central Namibia should get ready so that we swiftly move and conclude with the online presentation. So Ushona is going to take us through on the impact of bush thinning on the vegetation structure and soil properties of Otiwa Game Farm, Ocho-Zojuba region in Namibia.
Someone confirm that the screen is visible?
Confirmed on behalf of everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Oshona from the Department of Environmental Science, UNAM. My presentation for today is on impact of bush thinning on vegetation structure and soil property of Ochoa Game Farm. This study was supervised by Dr. Absarom Kahumba and Dr. Josephine Hamtoko. So just to give a brief background, In the general understanding here is that the savanna rangelands are mainly characterized by a continuous grass layer and a scattered layer of trees and shrub. However, over the years, there has been an increase in woody vegetation density and biomass, and this has become a significant environmental issue in Namibia, where about 35 to 40 million hectares of land is estimated to be encroached. Bush encroachment is reported to have caused a decline in biodiversity, reduced grazing capacity in our rangeland, as well as reduced groundwater recharge in Namibia. So in response to this, some farmers have started selective thinning activities in their farms to remove excessive bush growth. This practice has reported to promote the recovery and growth of herbaceous cover and also increase biodiversity as well as enhancing groundwater recharge, considering that Namibia is an arid country, so the reduction in woody density may lead to water saving. However, bush activity may have also a contradicting outcome. For example, high bush density has been reported to increase soil fertility through creating what we call fertility islands underneath canopy through decomposition of organic matter. And also, woody plants also act as carbon sink. Thus, the removal of these woody plants may have or disrupt the nutrients balance and reduce carbon sequestration. Thus, with this study, we aim to assess how the bush thinning impacts on now the soil properties and also vegetation structure, particularly looking at the herbaceous cover, woody density, organic carbon, and soil minerals. This study was conducted at Tochua in the Chuvarongo district, and we have selected this site because of its extensive history of bush clearing that was done on the farm over the years. So for data collection, we have selected 3 treatment sites from satellite imagery based on the years of bush thinning. We have selected the area that was bush thinned in 2012, the area that was also bush thinned in 2017, and also an adjacent control site with no bush thinning intervention. So, so at each site, we've generated a random sampling point with that were generated using the GIS ArcMap tool. Next slide, Moses. So at each random site, we have demarcated 10 by 10 plots, 10 by 10 plots, where in which we have all the woody individuals occurring in the 10 by 10 were counted and identified to species level. We have also measured the height and canopy diameter of all woody species. In the same plots, we have also estimated herbaceous cover and also collected soil sample from 5 different points as indicated on the diagram on your screen there. Next page. Next slide, Moses. Okay. This is basically what I've described earlier. Next slide. Data. Okay. For data analysis, for soil organic carbon, organic matter were analyzed using the one-way ANOVA, while the woody density, herbaceous cover, and soil minerals were analyzed using the Kruskal-Wallis test. Next slide. Yes, for our findings in terms of herbaceous cover, we found that there was a significant difference. Herbaceous plant cover was relatively less at the control site with 28%, and also at the 2017 treatment site with 25.8%. But at the 2012 treatment site, there was a high herbaceous cover with 52%. Then the control and the control and the treatment side of 2017. So the variation in herbaceous cover between these sites might have been associated mainly with the competition between woody vegetation and herbaceous cover. So this in particular was evident at the control plot where we have a high number of woody plants. And because of this, it limits the access to sunlight and nutrients and available moisture to herbaceous plants. Similarly, with the herbaceous cover, at the treatment site of 2017, this could also be influenced by a competition of resources, as this site was dominated by bitter bush, a shrub that's known to evade areas that are after disturbance. Next slide. For woody density, we found a significant difference between treatments. The density was significantly higher in the controls site, with over 2,706 tree equivalent per hectare than in the 2012 and 2017 treatment site. So the 2012 treatment site also had a significantly lowered woody density, which was also the same in the 2017 treatment site. However, the 2017 treatment site had exhibit a slightly high density than the 2012, but this was mainly because it was dominated by a high number of seedlings. Next slide. For soil organic carbon and organic matter, we found that there was a significant difference between treatments, and we postulated that a high soil organic matter and at the control site and the 2012 treatment site could be due to a high number of woody density that are introducing organic matter into the soil through decomposition of plant litter and hence leading to substantial accumulation of soil organic carbon. So, okay, just. For soil mineral, we found a significant difference in soil nutrients between sites. High nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium were recorded the 2012 treatment site, as illustrated by the box plots, with only calcium that was higher at the control site than the 2017 site. High soil mineral at this site may be due to the accumulation of organic matter that releases nutrients into the soil, because organic matter in the soil usually acts as a reservoir for essential nutrients through mineralization of organic matter. And basically the low concentration of this soil nutrient and at the recent treatment site suggests that the organic matter quality and quantity may have decreased following bush thinning, and also because there's a low return of biomass, may have also led to a reduction in organic matter and nutrients in this site. So in summary, our findings suggest that soil organic carbon and soil mineral were higher at both the 2012 and control site, which can be primarily explained by the high vegetation density at those sites, as well as the co-occurrence of two different plant forms, especially at the 2012 site where we have high herbaceous cover. And selective thinning it was more effective than the non-selective thinning when next slide, Moses. Can you hear me, guys? My network
yes, but we could not hear you for a second.
Okay. For in conclusion, there was a high number of soil organic carbon and soil nutrients recorded for 2012 treatment site. High wood vegetation density may also have contributed to this high level of organic matter. At the 2012 site, we have recorded a high number of herbaceous cover, and it could be because the co-occurrence of these two plant form grasses and woody plants at the 2012 site may have resulted in the high amount of soil organic matter similar to those at the control site. Next slide.
Recommendation.
Lastly, I would like to acknowledge Periphery Foundation for funding this project, the University of Namibia for allowing us to do the research, and as well as Oshua Lodge Namibia for accommodating us and allowing us to carry out this research at their farm. These are my references. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shona, for such a wonderful presentation. We open the floor for questions. 2 or 3 questions. Thank you, Doc. I think there is a question from Dr. Masumba. Hello, John. Yeah, you might have said it, but let me just ask. When you do things, do you replace the biomass that you take out? What happens?
Sorry?
Yes,
may you please repeat the question?
I'll do so. I'm saying, when you do thinning, what do you do to the material that you take out from that plot? When you do thinning, do you take it out and don't replace, or you just leave it on the ground so that it becomes a part of the organic matter that you are talking about? And what does it? Okay, answer that one. But I was saying the second question was, did you measure the biomass after you have thinned the plant? Thinning, it means the removal of other individuals, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Then you also measure the biomass of the plants that remained. Or you didn't?
Okay. For after thinning, with the farm management have just rolled the plant materials and in piles to let the pile decompose and become part of the organic matter. But we haven't quantified the biomass of the removed plants material.
Yes, one more question coming from the house. I'm just particularly interested in the fact that you look both at the organic soil carbon and the organic matter. I just want to find out what is the value of looking at those two. And perhaps what's the difference between those two in terms of your understanding? Thanks.
So for our results, organic carbon, organic matter was we recorded an average of 0.94 at the controls, the area that was not controlled, and as well as an average of 0.089 on the 2012 treatment side. So this gives an indication that so organic carbon goes hand in hand with the high number of organic matter. You see, the area where we have recorded the high number of high level of organic matter, we've also recorded the high level of organic carbon. Compared to now the recent treated site where we recorded a low level of organic carbon and organic matter. And also
yes,
we have now, sorry?
No, yeah, thank you very much. You have answered my question, but the main issue that I wanted to point out is that the two are so strongly correlated. Is there any value in reporting both of them at the same time?
No, it's we have just for visualization purpose and comparison purpose, because they are closely related and they go hand in hand.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oshona, for such a wonderful presentation. I think there are no more questions from the house. Maybe we move to the last presenter. Jabuliso Dube, if present, kindly confirm so that we hear from you on the determinants of landscape and forage selectivity by cattle during the wet season on a farm in central Namibia. Thank you so much. If you can put in presentation mode. The floor is yours. Dube, can you say something so that we know we are with you? Dube, I suspect you are on mute. I suppose Dube is the last presenter online, because we have a small excursion here, and we all wish if you were in Katima.
No, there was another one.
Okay. So maybe the next presenter, while let's do a sorting out the technology issues from that side, maybe the next presenter can come in while Dube is logging out and coming again. And the other one, is it Mr. Heita?
Sir?
Are you ready, say?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah, please. The colleagues online, I would request that now we move a bit faster so that we quickly conclude.
All right. Let me just start sharing
Thank
my screen.
Wonderful.
Is my screen visible from that end?
Yeah, it's visible, but it's not on presentation mode. Yes, now clear.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Hove, and good afternoon, colleagues. I will take you through a study that is part of my PhD project, which is being supervised by Professor Alphonse Mosmane. This is the work that we are doing in a conservancy north of Etosha. It's called Shatushana Conservancy, and we are trying to understand the socio-ecological drivers of human wildlife conflict in this particular conflict. I mean, in this particular conservancy. So that is the outline of my presentation, and I will dive directly into the presentation. I'm sure a number of speakers have already talked about the importance of having local inputs in trying to resolve some of the environmental challenges. And maybe some of the presentations have already also talked about human-wildlife conflict being one of the serious environmental challenges facing the world. So Namibia is not an exception from this problem. And it's also believed that it's because of human-wildlife conflict that we have got some declining population, especially of that of large predators in Africa. And for Namibia specifically, it's interesting because human-wildlife conflict also poses some threat to our community wildlife conservation, which has been regarded as one of the best in Africa over the past years. So that's why the aim of this study was to assess the socio-ecological drivers that are believed or that are influencing human-wildlife conflict in Shatushana Conservancy. And the study specifically focused on conflicts which were caused by lions and hyenas. That is just to give you an idea of where Shatushana Conservancy is. As I've indicated earlier, it is one of the conservancies north of Etosha National Park. But interesting enough, again, is that next to that conservancy, you also have, or north of Etosha, you also have other conservancies such as the Kingnehale, Ipumbu Shirombo, and others. But the focus of this study was mainly on Shatushana Conservancy. Just to say more about the study area, again, it's located in Nomsati region, which is next to Etosha National Park, as I've indicated, and the residents in the conservancy are more of subsistence farmers who belong to the Shwambo-speaking group, and they survive mostly on crops and livestock in general is considered to be the main source of livelihood. And despite being located next to Etosha National Park, you really have low activities of tourism in the area, and also high incidence of human-wildlife conflict in the area. So this is the very same conservancy where in 2017, we had incidents where about 4 lions or 5 lions were killed in one incident of human-wildlife conflict, killed by cattle farmers in the area. So just to refresh and get you an idea of how serious is the problem in the conservancy. Now, the problem statement again is that yes, human-wildlife conflict tend to be complex. We have got enough literature and evidence from the literature that shows the complexity of human-wildlife conflict, but yet the same literatures are also pointing out that wildlife conservation programs mostly used in Africa are based on Western values that sometimes tend to view communities the same, and also at the same time, they also tend to underestimate the local socio-ecological drivers of the conflict. So that's why there's that need of understanding what are the real issues of the drivers of these conflicts, especially in communal conservancies in Namibia, where you have diverse groups, diverse communities from different ethnic groups and having different cultural backgrounds, yet you have got one policy which is being used to mitigate the problem. The study in general covered 3 research questions, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'm only going to present the main findings from the first research question. And the 3 research questions covered in the study are, the first one was to find out how do livestock farmers' attitudes towards their relationship with wildlife managers influence human-wildlife conflict. That is the one that we are going to focus on. And also the additional 2 research questions were that, how do livestock farmers' cultural values and beliefs for lions and hyenas influence human-wildlife conflict? Then the third research question again is, was that, how do livestock farmers' behaviors for asset protection and management influence human-wildlife conflict? But again, as I've said, for the purpose of this presentation, we're only going to focus on the first research question. That was shaped or was guided by the conceptual framework by Dickman. And according to Dickman, she has identified, or she's arguing that human-wildlife conflict can be influenced by several risk factors, which she categorized in 2 categories of that of environmental risk as well as social risk. And what we did, or in our study, we have identified 3 factors from this conceptual framework. From the environmental factors, we have identified, or we selected human behavior for asset protection, which also is informed by the third research question. Then from the social risk category, we have identified distrust and animosity, which informs the first research question that you are going to present here. And also, we have also selected the beliefs and values, which informs the second research question, which is also part of the study, but not going to be covered in this presentation, or the findings are not going to be covered in this presentation. Now, with this issue of distrust and animosity, Dickman argues that sometimes the conflict is influenced or is being magnified by the relationship between different groups, which she has picked up, or which she specifically mentioned, the relationship between the communities and wildlife managers. And she's also arguing that in most cases, we have this relationship between communities and wildlife managers being characterized by serious distrust and animosities between the groups, which in a way also influences human-wildlife conflict in in the areas that he studied. And the method used in the study, the study was purely qualitative, and we conducted in-depth interviews and focus group discussions with the livestock farmers as well as the wildlife managers. And the livestock farmers were identified using purposive sampling from different hotspots, human-wildlife conflict hotspot areas in the conservancy, and it was specifically those who have experienced human-wildlife conflict. So we used in-depth interviews and focus group discussions, as I indicated. In addition to secondary data sources, the data was analyzed thematically using the Atlas TI. And the main findings which we have, or which the study had found so far, is that the relationship between the livestock farmers and wildlife managers was not a very good one. It was characterized by serious negative attitudes that the livestock farmers had towards the wildlife managers. And these negative attitudes were mostly caused by some 5 issues that the study has identified to be the drivers within the context of this relationship between the 2 groups. And number 1 is that untimely response to human-wildlife conflicts by the wildlife managers, the offset payments that the livestock farmers received for human-wildlife conflict damages, the community exclusion from wildlife management, poor conditions of Etosha National Park, and expansion of human settlements towards the wildlife areas. What I will do, I'll just spend the next maybe 5 minutes to give you a bit of details regarding these drivers in general, and also to understand how they influence the conflict in the area. The wildlife managers' untimely response to human-wildlife conflicts. In general, most of the livestock farmers believe that wildlife managers did not respond on time did not respond on time whenever they were notified about human-wildlife conflicts incidents in the area. And I've just picked up, I will just go through one or two quotes here, which will give us an idea of how these people felt about the response or the untimely response of wildlife managers towards the conflict. I mean, one of the farmers that we talked to told us that I don't think Natiri, the wildlife managers in this area, they are well known to be Natiris, or the common known name referred to them is Natiri. And the farmer said that I don't think Natiri, referring to the wildlife managers, care about the farmers. When you report to them, they don't come. They might say there's no car. You might also report today, and they might come tomorrow or the day after. So, and again, another one also say that personally, if I find a hyena or lion killing a livestock, I would attack it. At least we made efforts to report these predators to Natiri, but they never show up. So, and there's a general belief which the wildlife managers also agree to that untimely response is mostly caused by inadequate resources which they experience at their offices in Ongwediva. But also, it's also interesting to see that although the issue of inadequate resources showed up, the farmers, one of the issues that they complained is that whenever you have got incidents of rhino poaching or elephant poaching in the area, the managers tend to show up using even some of the helicopters, which they believe that, and the question that they asked is that, where do they get these resources if they don't have the same resources when we report about our livestock being killed by the predators? I'm sure we are all aware about the arrangement of the compensation arrangement that the government or the policy has got in place. But although this compensation is in place, most of the livestock farmers were very dissatisfied with the money that the government offered for human wildlife conflict damages. And in addition to that, they also believe that for one to get that money, it involved a very long and complex application process that one should go through. And also another issue that they've talked about is that the issue of lack of telecommunication network in the area has also made it very much difficult for them to get this money, because the policy requires that the incident should be reported in 24 hours. And in most cases, they don't have good network to make it or to report the incidents within 24 hours, which is required by the policy. And there was also a very strong feeling among the farmers that they were excluded from wildlife management. And this is because of the feeling that they did not get any direct benefits from wildlife. And there is one lodge in the area, but at the time, which is still up to now, it was not operational due to some local disputes. And in general, the farmers believe that maybe wildlife only benefited the government. So that's why they would act not to conserve predators involved in wildlife conflict. And also poor conditions of Joshua National Park for the farmers. I'm getting some echo in the background.
Yeah, is from that side.
Sure?
Let me check. The echo is actually from that side. I think the Javli, so when you mute, please, and Okombo.
Yeah, okay. I think it's gone for now. All right. With regards to poor conditions of Etosha National Park, the farmers were also dissatisfied with the conditions of the fence of the park, and they accused the wildlife managers of not really doing enough to maintain the fence. And this is just a picture of one of the section of the fence of the park, which is destroyed by elephants, which could allow all the predators, including everything, to get out of the park, and also allowed the livestock in the conservancy to also get into the park to graze, which also poses serious damages or serious threat from the predators. And the issue of expansion of human settlement, the study also found very good evidence that there was varied interest between the wildlife managers as well as the farmers in terms of land uses in the area. And that's why the wildlife managers, they blamed the livestock farmers for encroaching the wildlife areas. And to them, they believe that maybe the reason why they don't respond to their incidents, human wildlife conflict incidents, it's because of this blame. So, and it's also a very good evidence that we found that we have some of the farmers who had already moved up to the fence of the national park. The picture that I have on the display, this is the fence of one of the cattle posts, which was directly erected against the fence of the park on your right. So, and I mean, there is that evidence that yes, some of the farmers are located, I mean, some of the cattle posts have been located less than 1 kilometer from the national park. Now, to conclude, of course, there were several drivers that shaped livestock farmers' negative attitudes towards their relationship with the wildlife managers. And these drivers influenced human wildlife conflicts in the conservancy because they shaped the livestock farmers' actions not to conserve lions or these predators involved in human wildlife conflict. And the findings of the study concur with Dickman, especially within this specific aspect, concurs with the conceptual framework by Dickman. However, overall, especially with those two research questions that I did not present here on the cultural beliefs and the behaviors, we found different findings that is different from what Dickman found. That's why we modified, or there is a modified conceptual framework that suits the Namibian community-based natural resources context, or human wildlife conflicts within this context. And also it just provides evidence that yes, the management of socio-ecological drivers unique to a specific community should be a prerequisite to mitigate human wildlife conflicts in any community, but not rather use one single approach for all the communities, considering the diversity among the communities. This is some of my references, and I will welcome some of the questions from the audience.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yona, for the wonderful presentation. Colleagues, I will invite maximum 2 questions because of the time from the house if they are questions. Wow, that's wonderful. It appears the presentation was clear and easy to follow, shown by the absence of questions from the house.
So no questions?
No questions. I think everything was clear. In fact, you know, when I saw the responses from the quantitative interview, I was actually excited. I was actually excited at the same time, surprised. At one point, I wanted to ask, but I felt now, maybe from a layman's point of view, is it true that human-wildlife conflict is now triggering a conflict between and among human beings? Because the responses given by the two, when they said no, as a matter of fact, it is these managers that are not doing well. So I think the presentation was quite clear and easy to follow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our last presenter, I think, in the interest of time, we will request the last presenter to be, I don't know, to be quite brief, because our buses are already waiting for us. Mr. Dube? Yeah. Yeah, I hope Mr. Dube is not available. Not to say I don't want him to be available, but I'm simply saying
Dube, can you confirm that you're there?
Oh, you connected using someone's the
Dube, can you confirm that you're there?
and proper, I can confirm that Dule is not to be online. I think it's an issue of connection. Dule,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
we can hear you. Hello, please. Show your screen and go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay. Can you confirm if you can see my screen?
We can see very well.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jabuliso Dube, and I'll be focusing on the determinants of landscape and forest selectivity by cattle during the wet season on a farm in central Namibia. This work is supervised by Prof. Mapaure and Ms. Mokel Mandin. This is the outline of my presentation. As I present, I want you to take note of the landscape at Farm Kiamisap. It is characterized by high elevation and steep slopes. Livestock farming in Namibia generally supports livestock, and it contributes immensely to the national economy. It contributes about 2% to the country's GDP. And cattle farming is the most viable option for the extensive arid farmland, as some of the places, as some of the rangelands cannot sustain crop production. Of late, sustainable rangeland management has become increasingly important due to climate variability and land degradation. Actually, studies have shown that Namibian rangelands presently have decreased in terms of productivity, and also levels of background have increased. Herbaceous cover has also decreased, and also there is extensive bush encroachment, which can be attributed to climate change and other factors. As a result, farmers are now supposed to come up with compensatory management responses, such as destocking, supplement feeding, among other factors. Understanding how cattle interact with their environment is key to sustainable rangeland management. During the wet season, a period of great abundance, cattle might exhibit selective foraging behavior. This might have some implications on the environment in terms of if they are found to selectively graze on certain resources, they might underutilize them, they might overutilize others. Hence, it is essential for us to determine what are the determinants of forage and landscape selectivity, particularly in these patchy environments found in central Namibia. So this study, for the purposes of this presentation, I will focus on two of my objectives. The first objective that I focused on was to determine wet season forage selectivity by cattle at Farm Kiamisap, irrespective of landscape type. Then the last one was to determine the influence of herbaceous biomass, richness, diversity, cover, slope, and elevation on cattle landscape type selection at Farm Kiamisap West. The study was conducted at Farm Kiamisap, which is located 100 kilometers southwest Windhoek, and in extent, the farm is around 5,000 hectares, and it is divided into 9 camps. The farm lies in the Khomas-Hochland Plateau, which is a significant ridge of elevated terrain, and it is characterized by rolling hills, diverse landscapes, mountains, and valleys. So the study followed a stratified purposive design with random sampling. the sites were stratified into two, like the crest and the slopes. So it was purposive in the sense that selection of sampling sites was based on where the cattle were observed grazing, and also on the visual evidence of grazing, as well as accessibility. So to establish the beginning of a transect, a stone was thrown at random, and where it landed, it marked the starting point. So a 1 by 50 meter line transect was laid out at each selected site, and 6 1 meter by 1 meter plots were laid at 10 meter intervals, starting from 0. Hence, we had 72 plots, that is 12 transects on the slopes, and we had 78 plots coming from the 13 transect that we sampled in the crest. So in the 1 meter by 1 meter plot, firstly, we collected the coordinates, and also we identified the species to species level. We estimated herbaceous cover, and also grazing status was determined by checking the stems and leaves of plants. And lastly, biomass was collected from all the plots. This is how we determined the grazing status of the plant based on the evidence of grazing. And then slope and elevation were derived using the coordinates that were collected. And then we derived percentage slope and elevation used on QGIS version 3.36. Yes, biomass, species richness, diversity, elevation, slope, and cover were used as explanatory variables in the canonical correspondence analysis, which was used to determine the influence of, as I said earlier. So for the first objective, the chi-square test of association revealed that cattle do not graze indiscriminately, but they select specific plants. For example, they strongly selected forbs such as Gliomis sulfuriticosa, Triplex terrestris, and Monechma divaricatum. And they showed avoidance for forbs such as Pegolacea senegalensis. And if you can take a closer look on this table, you can see that a lot of species had Jacob's similarity of -1, which indicates that they were completely avoided. And then moving on to grasses, the cattle actually selected Eragrostis nindensis, Anthepora pubescens, Sporobolus africanus, and Stipagrostis uniplumis. And they avoided grasses such as Fingerwittia africana, Melinus repens, and T. bate, as shown by the negative JSI index here. So these findings are actually consistent with others who have found out that nutritional value actually affects the nutritional value as well as availability affects the selectivity of plants by herbivores. So as you can see here, Eragrostis and Eragrostis nindensis and Anthepora pubescens are highly, they are high value forage plants, and thus they were selected. But now for species that had low grazing values, such as Melinus repens, Fingerwittia africana, these were completely avoided. And other studies have also reported that similar findings that cattle do select high value plants. And also to highlight on the availability densely affects cattle foraging behavior. Then to move on to the determinants of landscape type selection, we use the canonical correspondence analysis, which revealed that, sorry, I will take that again. So the canonical correspondence analysis, the CCA, was significant, showing that the measured environmental variables do account for the observed variation. they actually explained that 36.7% of the total variation. And then to determine the variables, the environmental variables that were significant, we used the Monte Carlo permutation test. And then it showed that elevation, species richness, slope, and relative grazing index actually explained landscape type selectivity. Topography has been shown in terms of percentage slope and elevation. It has been shown that it influences cattle movement and also the grazing and accessibility. Hence, you can see that in this diagram here, the crest were mainly associated with high elevation, and then the slopes, steeper slopes, were associated with percentage slope. Then to conclude, these findings suggest that cattle graze indiscriminately. They show a clear forage selectivity, and they actually target high value forage plants. And elevation, slope, and species richness were significant determinants of landscape type selection. So what's the take-home message? The take-home message is that foraging behavior in heterogeneous patchy landscapes is actually influenced by both plant community properties such as species richness, as well as the physiographic factors such as slope and elevation. So this study actually recommends the monitoring of species composition changes over time to prevent overgrazing of preferred forest species, as well as the management practices to promote species richness to help distribute grazing pressure more evenly across the landscape. This study, however, focused on wet season forage selectivity. Other future studies can actually focus on all year round forage selectivity. They can actually focus on different seasons, let's say the wet and dry season. And this brings me to the acknowledgements. I would love to acknowledge my supervisor, Prof. Mapaure, Mrs. Mokel, as well as Mrs. Kathleen Dilly for allowing the study to be carried out at the farm, as well as the DAD for their generous scholarship, as well as the botanical garden staff for the help with the identification of plants, and also my classmates and family who have been a backbone in the study. And this is these are some of the references used for the purposes of this presentation, and that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you. I don't know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Wundi Sadube, for such a wonderful presentation. I think remain online for some reactions from the house, from colleagues in the room.
Sorry?
People can have one question, I think one pending question from the house.
Thank you. The gentleman, are you gentleman, your gentleman? Thank you for your presentation. The first point I want to raise may sound very funny. You said the cattle is a bit, is it selective foraging behavior during wet season when there are plenty of those forages. As an individual, as a human being, I am surprised by that behavior. Because during the wet season, like you put it, there are plenty, and in the human stock, they say variety is spice of life. When you have a lot of food stock around you, the tendency to select is very high. So, for me, as a layman, do you think that is an issue for emphasis? You may advise from my layman perspective. And the other side, your sampling approach was what attracted my attention. If I get you right, you said you threw a stone and where it landed, mark the beginning of where you are sampling, if I get you right. Now, what scientific principle informed that? Don't you think that could amount to lopsided sampling approach? Because the more you flow, the tendency for your arm to get weaker and tired is very high. And if that arises, you see the first flow will go further. The more you go, it may not even go beyond where you are standing again. So what principle do you use to change the balance to ensure that you have fairness in your sample representation? Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry,
so I think, yes.
I didn't get the question, sorry.
Or you didn't get the question. The question in brief.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me repeat. Your sampling approach, you said that you follow stone.
Yes.
And when you mark where you collect your sample, I'm trying to paraphrase what you have said. I may not put it well. It does not represent the truth.
I say the study followed a stratified purposive design with random sampling. So it was stratified, like the sampling sites were stratified into two, the crest and the slopes. Now it was purposive in the sense that selection, that the selection of the sites was based on where cattle were observed grazing, the visual evidence of grazing, as well as accessibility. Then to mark or to establish the beginning of a transect, a stone was thrown at random. Where it landed, that was our starting point, where we actually marked our 50-meter line transect, where the transect, where the plots were laid.
Thank you. That was actually my concern. That throwing of the stone to mark where you. Now, don't you think your hand limitation might influence where the stone or how far the stone could go, or you have a scientific means to defend that or check that? That is the principle I want to very show, because the more you, the tendency for your arm to get weaker is very likely. And if that's setting, the tendency for the stone to even land very close to you is high. So how do you check the issue, the tendency to achieve a lopsided sampling? How do you control that? Thank you.
Did you get the question, Ms. Dura?
Sorry?
Did you get the question?
Not really, say I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, but maybe I can assist. The issue is on your, I understand when you are throwing a stone from a statistical point of view, you are trying to remove researcher bias and be as random as possible. So your big request is to clarify the idea of throwing a stone. Don't you think
okay.
Introduce the bias? I'm just trying also to paraphrase what is the scientific principle behind the throwing of the stone.
The drawing of the stone, it actually reduces like the bias.
Yeah, I think it's clear. Maybe you can also just from this side, you can to look very closely into this idea of throwing a stone, because I can assure you I'm hearing some whispering. How big is this stone? What about if there is wind? Will it not be blown into some places? But I think it's okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there is a suggestion that maybe you can just put those issues. Yeah, but it's clear from our understanding the issue of removing researcher bias. So maybe you can also put that so that it's clear.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Colleagues, thank you so much, especially the colleagues online. For now, I think yes, we were supposed to have you, but because of some logistical issues, we could not put you right straight in the beginning of the program. And I just want to indicate to you that don't hesitate to participate in any of the future scientific conferences that the department will organize, as we are learning from these, these hiccups. Next year, we look forward to put these challenges as part of our plans to improve, and we hope to put a well-coordinated technological platform that will allow us to engage with you in a seamless way. Otherwise, from this side, thank you so much, because I don't think we'll be able to host you further as we move into the plenary session now. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Okay.
We are going to continue our online platform. Thanks to Prof. Mufune for the support, and thanks everybody.
Thank you so much, and bye.